Okay, here's a quick impromptu kind of what's on my workbench, just to go over a couple of these items quickly. What this is all centered around a little bit of interest I have at the moment of a game called Trench Crusade, which is kind of like a World War One alternative reality, kind of weird war mix, sort of the Great War meets Lovecraft kind of thing, but not quite. It's about demons and Christianity fighting the final Great War, apocalyptic war in the trenches. Anyway, so I've got into this, and it's a mini project. It's not going to be a long-term thing, and I don't really intend to get into the game itself, but it's got some nice elements that I kind of want to get into. The main thing was getting back into, of course, doing miniatures to see if I could paint down at this scale again, like I used to be able to. And the short answer is I can't. I'm really pushing the envelope here. I can't do the detailed work that I used to. Even if I take a long time, I take my time and spread out the work. This single miniature is taking me so long compared to how I used to do miniatures. And of course, I have to stop and break every time I have a little shaky hand moment and things like that. And I just can't do the fine detail that I used to be able to. I can't believe that this scale, and even smaller at 172 scale, this is about 154, I think, 28mm. I used to be able to do emblems and all sorts of really, really fine detail. And nah, can't do that. So it's a rather a bit more of a vague paint job. But I have been able to try out several new things, like using oils for the first time. This is not quite complete yet. I've just finished doing its oil coat, wash coat, to muck it up so it has that real grim, dark trench warfare dirtiness about it, and I'm really pleased with it. You can see it's all really kind of muckied up. So I'm really pleased with that and getting to grips with oils. I've learned a lot. I've got a lot to learn, but that went quite well. But there's other things. So I want to do a little bit of a scenery display. So I thought I'd practice on doing some items. These are trench walls. I don't know if you recognise this thing, if you've seen pictures of the trenches. The kind of wooden palisades and things, and using all sorts of materials, including corrugated iron, to kind of support the trenches. And I thought I'd have a go at these. I'm quite pleased with the way these are turned out as well. Mixed media, I've used powders and oils to create these rusty effects. I've gone from sort of one that's almost not rusty at all, but chipped, to one that's chipped and a little rusty, to one that's slightly rusty, to one that's totally rusted. And I'm really quite pleased. It does have that corrugated iron effect about it, so it should look nice as a backdrop to display these figures when I've finished. I'm only going to be doing sort of like half a dozen of these. Really, I'm not making it a huge part of my schedule for projects, because I've got so many other things I want to get back onto. But this has been quite interesting. Okay, so I did these, and I'll be making like a little section of trench. So I'll do the full wall and have the figures sat in front of this when they're on display. But also the other thing that's arrived are these. I've kind of discovered, because making miniatures is such an expensive hobby, and you go out there and you see the sets of figures that you can buy online, especially from the likes of people like Games Workshop, who really, really, I don't know where they get the pricing from. I really do not. But I've discovered this way of kind of cheating this price hiking that goes on with these modelling companies, and that's to go on eBay and you can buy individual sprues. Some of it is from people that have maybe completed a set or nearly completed a set and have had sprues left over or unwanted sets, but you can buy these sprues individually, not in the boxes. Now the box for this particular one, for example, from a company called Wargame Atlantic, you could spend about £25 buying a box. Well, I don't want to do that for what's going to be a mini project series. So buying these sort of like individually, and you can get some really good prices and pick up some good bargains on eBay. You can pick these up at a fraction of the price, and I managed to put together a little selection that is, I guess, about a third of a box of what you would get new from Wargames Atlantic. And what these are is part of Wargame Atlantic's science fiction range. This is these are called the series is called Death Fields, and they're kind of proxies for the usual Games Workshop stuff, and they do a selection of different things, so you can fit these in to do things like 40k a lot cheaper than if you did it just buying from Games Workshop itself. And these guys here are kind of like an alternative reality Imperial French soldiers called, the set is called, now forgive my pronunciation here, and maybe you can see this here. There you go. Les Grognards. They're kind of like veteran Imperial. So it's funny, although it's sort of, like I say, an alternative reality of, say, World War One, and also futuristic as well. They've included things like the Imperial Guard hats and Napoleonic hats, as well as World War One or World War Two French caps and helmets. So you can kitbash your way to building quite something that's, well, quite unique, really. So I picked these up really cheaply, and I'm looking forward to putting these together to make the rest of my Trench Crusade warband. Okay, so that was a nice little cheap bargain that I picked up, and on top of that, I picked up another. I ended up trawling around this. There's a whole slew of people selling off individual sprues on eBay. Which this is all new to me. I didn't know this kind of like this existed. This thing going on with people selling individual sprues, but now I found it. It's terrific. So another thing I bought was I found this one. Let's make it a little bit more clear about what it actually is. It's a set of animal bones and horns and things like that, which is great if you're doing fantasy models. Some of these horns, if I ever did the one of the other factions in the Trench Crusade, which are kind of things like demons and demonic, what do you call it? The Lovecraftian thing. Cultists, that's the word I'm looking for. You know, things like the horns and things like this, making the figures look more demonic. This is going to be terribly useful, and just as a general thing for having to hand, it's going to be fantastic. Look, these I think they're like big shark jaws, ram's horns, of course. I saw these, and I tell you what I'd love to do is make a figure of a wizard with these ram's horns on him. And I don't know if you remember Tim from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. he wore these ram's horns on him, and I'd love to do a little model of Tim. But you get things like deer antlers, all sorts of things, bits and pieces, hands. These look great for cultists. Oh, is that a little devil there as well? Oh no, just heads on hooks. Look at that. This is brilliant. There's all sorts of things here. I'm really pleased with that. So there we go. That's I forget what day it is. 13th of December today. So we're closing in on Christmas. So hence the fact that I'm actually got like a mini project at the moment, because there's so much just going on at the moment. I can't, and I've got a couple of big projects on the back burners that I'm trying to complete for Christmas. So hence this small one. So if I don't do another Workbench update before Christmas, Merry Christmas to you all, and a very happy Hogmanay, and I hope you get what you want for Christmas. if you've been good.